you doing?
How you doing, Nadia?
Thank you for joining Discussion to Action. All right, where are we? Who picked?
We did.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a question. Okay. Okay, should women be held accountable for choosing to be with or stay with a no good man? If so, why and how does she do that? How does she do what? How does she stay with the person, or how does she?
Be held accountable.
How is she held accountable?
Can you read it again?
Yeah, no, okay, I'm sorry. Should women be held accountable for choosing to be with or stay with a no good man? If so, why and how does she do that?
Guys first.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to, anybody?
Yeah, Rose.
Yeah, Kim.
I think everybody's trying to get a good.
Safe response.
So it sounds like the question sort of presupposes that you know in advance that he's a no good man. Or at some point you come to the realization he's a no good man.
Correct.
And she,
Okay.
and she stays.
Does he have a gun to your head?
That's not it.
Oh, I like
I'm just asking.
Hey, he came in hot. I like bro. I'm gonna sit up here.
You know Is it another R. Kelly sequester situation?
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
What is it? I'm just trying to understand.
Are you being held?
You know he's no good, but you choose to stay with him. Should you be held accountable?
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
If there's no force, I mean, yeah, for sure.
You guys see it differently?
No, I agree with you.
You are being
it
held
comes down to
accountable,
personal
right?
integrity.
I don't quite understand the question still, because you're being held accountable if you're staying with this person. You are.
Well, there are some women after the fact will complain that they were with a no good man type thing, and they're not necessarily holding themselves accountable, yes, saying the man is no good.
And the reason why people look at
Okay,
sex predicament
that was what
because
they needed. I think that was a little negative to understand the question.
Okay, got it.
I know a friend of mine, she's in that same position right now where she knew this guy was fresh out of prison. He was no good dude. She ended up marrying him. She's a school teacher and like 10 years older than this cat, and they got married. Now she's complaining, like she makes her mantra every day is complaining about the same guy. And like the same time I told her, I said, look, Shelby, look, I love you, but I gotta tell you the truth.
That you gave her that?
You took out Shelby Matthews or Shelby?
Shelby Jones! Shelby Jones!
That'll get edited out.
And their relationship dynamic is strong because he would have did that if it wasn't.
Yeah, better hope. So what I told her was that she lacked personal integrity, meaning that what she knew and what she did were two different things. You see what I'm saying? So like if you lack personal integrity as a human being, you're gonna get yourself in that kind of predicament. And that's what happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if she's been deceived, that's one thing, obviously. If she doesn't know, he's just running a game and she's being misled and so forth, that's completely different. But you gotta be held accountable if you were the guy that you know he showed and you choose to stay there. I mean, were you a fixer or whatever it is, daddy issues, whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, it's
a lack of self-love, a lack of... And this comes down to not valuing who you are. Because if you value who you are, you wouldn't take off your best clothes and go and roll in the mud. So why would you give your body, your mind, the very gift that God has given you to some dude or swine is going to degrade who you are? It don't make no sense.
Now, I'm not being critical if that's because some people just may have some of those emotional depths as well. Okay, but I'm just saying it is on the woman. It's not.
I got a question for all the women in the room.
Okay.
Has there ever been an instance in which a man was deceiving you or doing you wrong and not 1 ounce of your inner woman told you? Ever?
Shelby, come on now.
Something inside of you told you, right? Some portion, some aspect. If you ever was deceived, whether you had evidence or not, right? At some point you knew. There you go.
But I've had.
Because I don't got that.
But I've had some doubts, or I've had some evidence of some small things with guys who were good too.
But
But what, it's a difference between your thought in your head and your woman's. You know the difference between your woman's intuition and something you just making up in your brain. It's a very distinct difference. It's like this. I can describe it even though I don't got it, but I know because you got it. It's in here. Like you can see it on her face when she do it. Like, oh, that's not the thinking one. That's the intuition face. Like you can just tell. It's different. Right? I'm not crazy, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about.
I think
I'm right, right? And I've never felt it before. I'm telling you. Don't talk to me. I'm just trying to get a comment.
Yeah,
So-
but Chanel wants to say something.
So the thing for me is, it has to be like compassion and accountability,
Yeah. I agree.
like for real. Because at the end of the day, just based on the question that we're asking, even though there's different levels. So if the individual is still in this relationship with the man, then that means that they're coming to you venting. So there has to be some sense of accountability that you're speaking to them as you're allowing them to release. You understand what I'm saying? So being compassionate by holding them accountable. And then if they're no longer with them and they're complaining or they're blaming, then there still has to be a level of a different sense of compassion and accountability. Because at the end of the day, as long as you have a sound mind, we're accountable for whatever it is that we make a decision to be a part of.
Okay. How do you know whether or not a woman values herself?
Say that again, please.
How do you know whether or not a woman values herself?
That's easy.
That's a question.
Real easy.
But that's to them.
I mean,
First.
They go first.
go ahead, ladies.
She set standards and expectations.
Set standards and expectations.
The choices that she makes in life. I mean, the choices that she makes tells you the kind of person she is.
What were you going to say?
She's like red over here.
Come on, I've been waiting.
Okay, choices. And anybody else?
Oh, it's on her.
She doesn't.
Oh, she not. Oh.
Okay, Kester.
I was gonna say healthy boundaries.
Mm.
You know, in terms of the limitations. Not that somebody just kind of got this outrageous, but you know, no, yes, no, that kind of thing.
Let me say this real quick. One thing that I've found, and this is what I was saying too when we had the women versus the, or when I had the male perspective and the female perspective, where I was talking about, the men. I mean, like you guys kind of just answer questions, and it's fascinating in the sense that they say, women talk, and have a lot to say, and men don't say anything. And you guys have really been, fluent with what you're saying.
Don't believe the hype,
And-
right?
Because it's not a personal
communicative.
situation, though.
And things like
There
that.
you go.
But what I'm saying is, even if it's not a personal situation, you're still being transparent. And then also, the fact of the matter is that even if so it's sort of one-sided, like I'm really wanting, the women to get engaged and it's just complete silence, which you would think, or, a lot of silence, which you would think.
Yeah, why you got so
would be-
quiet?
Well, I think majority, like that question was to a man specifically. I mean, we can answer as from our point of view as a woman, but specifically you were asking, like, from a male perspective, how can you tell that a woman doesn't
Yeah,
value
the,
No,
the question kind
I
of
was
carried it
asking-
in that perspective.
No, I asked that question based on, these questions are based on my experiences in my life.
Okay.
So this, basically what I've learned from my experience is that the choices that I made, I realized that I didn't value myself. So that's me learning how now that I value myself in a way that I didn't before, is I will make different choices and different decisions. So I asked that because I didn't know that before. I didn't realize that before in my life as a woman. So I purposely, intentionally asked women that question first, although we all, get to ask.
So let me ask you a question. When you were in that time in your life, were you able to be accountable like you just were right now? about the role that you played in the situation?
I absolutely, I'm not.
At the time, not on the time when you were reflecting and you saw it, but in that moment, were you receiving some accountability in the situation?
Yes, I liken that to what we said about saying, well, there's no good men, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I've never made those statements. So, yeah, I mean, basically, I'm pretty much self-reflective.
Mm-hmm.
So I was constantly trying to figure out what is happening here. And a lot of the men who, either whether they did something wrong to me or not, or maybe there was a new guy introduced to me and he would say, oh, those guys were jerks, it wasn't you. And I went on looking, and probably that was true, but I realized it was me in the sense that I didn't value myself. So, but I wasn't looking at the men as they're not, because generally, I mean, there are some guys who did some bad things, but overall, it's not like they cannot be a good man. Let me not even explain that because I wasn't looking at that actually. I was just looking at for myself, and what I need to do.
Can I say something what you're just saying? So one thing, you asked a question about being held accountable. Well, held accountable, that's kind of an interesting thing because to be held accountable means that you have to be aware of a very definitive standard that you chose to go against. And I'm not really sure that a lot of women are very clear on what that standard is terms to be held accountable to. It's maybe after the fact you made. But the other thing too is, relationships aren't just completely black and white. So for instance, the previous question was, if a woman is with a no good man and so forth, should be with. So we kind of say, yeah, it's your fault, whatever else. But relationships and people are very dynamic, particularly in our community. So for instance, I imagine a lot of black women, when it comes to black men, from all the negative things you may have heard or even experienced about us, you probably want to be with a black man. I've heard a lot of black women say, I want to be outside my race, I want to be with a brother. So what happens is, I think a lot of times women give brothers a chance. Let me be a little tolerant, let me not go off on the deep end and so forth. So maybe there's margin of error, I think, that sometimes women give. Just like, okay, he's not everything I want, but let me not go there.
That's a good point.
And so what happens is, once you do that, and then we become the person that you fear we may be, despite you give us a chance, I think a lot of women feel slighted. Is that accurate on the?
Explain the last part again. Once we give the
you kind
deference
of
or
right.
whatever.
Even though you see something, but let me see if I can be a little patient and so forth, and then it still goes south. Then there's even probably more resentment because I saw it in
I
advance.
gave you a chance.
I
You
gave you a
gonna treat me like
chance
that?
and so forth.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's probably where some of that comes. I'm not saying that's in every case, but I imagine that probably is somewhat right. Would that be true? Would you agree with that at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Are men selfish when it comes to how they pursue, treat, and handle women?
Are we selfish?
I think I understand what you're saying. Okay, let me read this one more time. Are men selfish when it comes to how they pursue, treat, and handle women? So you're saying the manner in which we do it, do we do it in a way in which we believe is the best way instead of a way that they would view as the best way?
Yeah.
That's what your question is? Okay, gotcha. Yes, for sure, because it goes back to love languages. If I profess my love to you in the way that I want to, I believe that I tell you I love you every day. But if that's not your love language, you don't feel like I love you every day. And so that's how we can get, and it can be a year later, 2 years later, and you'd be like, do you even love me? Like, do you even care about me? And then we sit back and we're like, is she even asking me this right now? Every single day I do this, I do that, but that's not her language. So for 2 years you've been speaking to her in a foreign language and you're expecting her to comprehend something she's never heard. And then you're upset and you guys have resentment towards one another and it's like, well, did you even spend any of that time like he said earlier? To understand the person, to really observe and break down who they are. Because when you do that, then you know, okay, well, when I do that, she don't really seem like she get what I'm trying to convey. Or then just like really sit down. This is what I do, like, Cause I'm a very like specific person. Hey, what is it that tells you I love you? I'm gonna just ask you just like that. Like, what are the things that I need to do on a daily basis to let you know that? And the only reason I'll ask that is if like I feel like I'm struggling with because I'm a very observant person. So I'm just speaking for me. Most of the things I'll pick up on them. So I'm like, okay, she likes this. This makes her feel good. This makes her smile. This, I get a reaction out of her this way. And then those things that are kind of underneath or undertone, them is the things that you asked about. But then I gotta play devil's advocate, because then sometimes women will say, oh, well, it feels forced. You're only doing that because you asked me and I told you. But that's unfair, because how can I be held responsible for information that I don't have? You can't expect for me to just know.
To that question. I wonder what you guys would say. Forget what we think.
No,
I'm done.
This is for the guys first, and then they respond after.
But I'm done.
Okay. Anybody else?
Nah, I mean, it's good. Mark's, he's locked in. Let's hear the ladies.
Ladies?
Repeat the question.
Yeah.
It says, are men selfish when it comes to how they pursue, treat, and handle women?
Any thoughts?
I'm just gonna say, yeah, this period. I'm just gonna agree. At least on the surface level, I don't think that's every single relationship, and I think that the more that men and women interact and all of that, once you have a more robust relationship, then it doesn't become that way. But I think, yeah, initially.
I mean, it seems like men go into a relationship, they kind of know what they want, and they go get it based on what they want.
But I don't think that's necessarily selfish.
Yeah,
People are selfish.
And it's
Selfish in the sense of
Do it
if
in
they're
my
not, what'd you say?
Doing it my way.
Right. If it's not like a mutual thing as far as like, how are we going to be in this together type thing, more of, because I mean, there's so many relationships where, well, I hear men basically saying, well, she looks good. I want sex. Just that type of thing. And so that's their reasons. You're not really hearing, well, I want to be with this woman has this skill, or, she's able to do this, or we can do this together, or build that way together, and it's a mutual thing. It's more like, well, she looks good. I can, and I want her, and so that's what I'm gonna get, and then it's like, cooking, cleaning, or whatever else it is that, they might think. I mean, some men do say that. Is that not the case?
Yeah, there's levels to that though. It's the maturity of the man. So if you have a mature man, he's selfish, so he wants sex, whatever things you said, but I don't think that's a thing abroad for all men though.
Mhm.
But there are some that are selfish, yeah.
Yeah, I was speaking in general for a man to that though, for a man who is not, is contrary to that.
Right.
What would he be looking for in a woman, or what would his?
Well, I mean, you'd be looking for qualities that you deem valuable in a relationship. So, I mean, I would say a boy, yeah, he wants sex, but I want somebody I can talk to. I just don't want sex.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So that's a different, so I'm not going into it saying I want sex. I want somebody I can talk to. It's 24 hours in a day, sex, make an hour out of that.
Hey,
That's being generous.
I say, but you got 23 other hours, we need to be able to,
But you know what? I think that question was more about the
How to
approach,
pursue
not
it.
just about the.
Right.
So in terms of the approach,
it's different.
when you said mature, I think we
Yeah.
agree. So like whether my end goal is sex, a relationship, whatever the case may be, I'll probably be a lot more methodical and careful in terms of really understanding. I will be very neutral in terms of trying to interject what I think you want to hear. I mean, there may be some stuff like that, but really it's more of a curiosity about who you are, and you're responding to me. I say, oh, and that will kind of get my steps from there, so to speak. That's what I'm thinking.
Ladies?
It's your turn.
What are the signs of lovemaking? No, I'm just playing. What are the signs? What are the signs that you have a good man?
The signs that
Yeah,
you
what's
have a
the
good
signs you
man.
have a good man? What's that like?
Up with your
That'd be
What's those signs
I mean,
like?
the signs.
What them signs like? Miracles, signs, and wonders.
I know it's
I would say the signs that you have a good man are the way you respond to him. You can tell. For me, everything is self-based. It's internal. It's based on me. So, like earlier, we were talking about the safe place. That was a struggle for us for a set of years. For me to create a safe place, for him to create a safe place for me, for us to do that for each other. So, the maturity level just has to keep going. If I got a good man, he just keeps growing up. You know, it's not a one set thing that he's gonna do every day that shows me that he's maturing, that he's a good man. If he keeps growing up, if he's recognizing where he's falling short, where I'm falling short even, and we're expressing to each other in a reasonable way, it's in love, where it's like, I'm serious about this, but I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to let you see yourself in this moment. I need that back and forth communication, love, everything, affection, everything. Whatever he's giving, if it's his selfish desire, if it's something that he wants that doesn't hurt me, yes, be selfish, because yes, I'm selfish too. Like, you know, I think people are selfish. And we should be if we're giving to each other. If you can be selfish and I can join in with you, then you're not selfish. You know, it's just something you like. Like, he likes to watch sports. I watch sports because he likes to watch sports. It's not a bad thing, you know.
Anybody else here married?
Yeah, married.
Right, okay, both of you out there, okay.
All right, anybody else about the signs? Well, I have to say, I asked some women at my work, and there were only a couple, not even a few, maybe actually one.
Okay, no, we're gonna
She
have
went from a few she went from 3 to 2 to 1.
Yeah, who was actually able to answer that question, you know, pretty clearly and matter-of-factly. Right, it doesn't seem like there is. And what she said was, you know, a man who is going to look after your needs and sort of like, you know, just be there, be thoughtful. So if, you know, he knows you're coming home from work and he's going to already have, if there's something that you like, he's going to already, you know, have that prepared for you, that type of thing. That he's going to have integrity, consider your feelings when it comes to certain things like that. I can't remember all of what she said, and to tell
Is he
you
not
the truth.
working, so when you working, you can come? How is he home?
Well, it depends.
Oh, could be off day. My bad.
It's a day off.
There's people, she actually does work on the weekend.
work great.
So it depends on everyone's schedule, but there's just this mutual consideration. Yeah, just in case there's people out there who, you know.
Oh, because we're out there.
Wait, can you read the question? Can you read the question?
How do you know if you have a good man?
Yeah, what are
What
the
are
signs
signs?
of a good man?
What are the signs that you have of your man?
One more. You gonna answer that one?
Because we just want to know so we can create those signs.